People always ask about where they can get native plants. So today I am thrilled to meet with Drake White, a habitat advocate and certified master naturalist who launched the Nectar Bar, an all-native nursery in San Antonio. Drake, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming here. When did you get started growing native plants?
So it started about 2013. I
Okay.
really got into the conservation of butterflies, and so I started as a landscape company. And as soon as I started getting really involved into my work, I realized that a lot of the plants needed, especially for host plants, weren't even available. So I began my journey and searched far and wide and found the things that I needed and just started implementing them into my own space. So then over time, with advocacy through other outlets of social media, which is amazing sometimes, it really started to spark a growth in the importance of native plants and biodiversity within your own yards. So with that, around 2017, I launched my backyard nursery and started propagating from my own yard and then moving it out to other backyard growers as they would propagate from my yard and then grow them for me. This is a need, and so yeah, on April 1st of last year, we opened up San Antonio's first all-native nursery here in San Antonio.
That's amazing. So were you a certified master naturalist before all of that?
Yes, and that's actually what even more so sparked my interest. In 2015, I became a certified Texas Master Naturalist, and that's also where I learned the importance of biodiversity and the importance of native plants for habitats for wildlife.
Why are native plants so important? I mean, what is this backyard habitat concept that you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. So it's really just totally understanding what you need. So if you're, for an example, if you want to bring, if you're a birder, if you want to bring in certain birds, there's certain native grasses that will really bring in certain birds. So like a painted bunting, for example, Texas cupgrass, it's their favorite seed. They will eat other seeds, but that's their favorite. So it's really understanding, and for me it started with a black swallowtail butterfly. And so it was like, okay, besides herbs like fennel and dill and parsley, what do they need for their natural native plants that will actually start building the colony with them? So when they start growing and building that colony, then the birds move in to eat them too.
Right.
Everybody's got to eat. Everybody has their niche and what they like. And so if you're actually planting for that, you'll bring that in. And when you're planting for one, you're planting for all. And us as people can become better stewards of our land because we may not, as a person ourselves, deplete everything. But we as a growing population do. So if we give back, even if you're in an apartment, you can put something in a nice big pot on your patio and still provide habitat. My space is like a park.
Wow.
And I have your basic suburban backyard, your 100-foot by 45-foot backyard, and the front yard too. It's a sanctuary for all habitat, from birds to spiders to lizards to all of it. Frogs, turtles, everything has shown up. And that's a good point too, that once you are actually starting to purposely plant, then everything moves in. You don't have to do anything to bring it because you're providing and they automatically move in. Many of times when I'm first starting people's habitats, they'll be like, well, what do I do now? Where do I buy my butterflies? And I'm like, you don't. They show up because you have what they need. And it's just understanding what they need. If you just have flowers, you're going to be a stop by, you'll be a flyover. But getting the host plants and being okay with something eating your plants, because eventually something's going to move in to eat them too, and everything will balance out the ecosystem.
We've got a number of plants we want to talk about. Some of these are my favorite. But let's start with flame acanthus.
Oh, flame acanthus is one of my favorites. And just because it's literally one of those little shrubby plants, it'll get every bit of 4 foot tall, 3 foot wide. So give it space. This is one you can plant it, water it in, and ignore it, and it does not care. It thrives off of complete neglect, but it's a host plant. So it's the host plant for the Texan crescent and the crimson patch butterfly. So you're providing food source for those caterpillars. And then also it is just, I mean, everything's on it. From hummingbirds fight over it.
Right.
Bees, butterflies, everything will be all over it with the flowers. So it's a great nectar source as well, but really thrives on neglect.
Okay.
Even if you have what I like to call a hell strip, it does not care. It does not care, not
Right.
one bit.
What about Liatris?
So
lot of people-
Liatris, yes.
Yes.
And that one is a magnet for everything pollinator. It does bloom mid to late summer
Right.
into the fall.
Which is great.
Yes, because there's really not much else blooming when
Right.
we're 500 degrees.
Yes.
So it's really a great source for hummingbirds, for bees and butterflies, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And there's different varieties or species, and depending upon your height requirements, some can get every bit of 6 foot tall and some get about 3 foot tall. It also does not like water. Plant it in, water it in, and completely ignore it. That's the beautiful thing about native plants. They don't require all this extra care.
And then what about Texas prairie parsley, an overlooked plant?
Yes, so, and many people don't even know, but especially here in Austin, y'all have it down 35. So if you're
Yes.
driving 35, you can see how much neglect it actually loves.
Right, right.
And it will get every bit of 3 to 4 foot tall, and it's about, you know, maybe 1.5 feet wide, but if you have multiple plants, you can make it a pretty a good statement piece. Also, it's the native host plant for the black swallowtail. It does not like a lot of water, and it likes to be ignored. So these are things that I absolutely love to just preach over and over and over to people.
Sure.
Because typically they're like, but don't you have to get them established?
Right.
And it's like, well, yes, you do.
Right.
But if you're still watering them once a week, you're going to kill it because they don't like that much
Right.
water.
What about the goldenrods, solidagos? Those are responsible for all of the allergies, right?
Yeah, that's what they say, but it's so just, it's misconceptions because
Right.
usually it's in bloom when ragweed is in bloom.
Right.
And so they get the blame for it, but the pollen that is actually on the solidago, it's sticky. So
Right.
unless you're shoving it up your nose,
Which
or
some people might.
Right, they might, you know. But if you do have actually allergies with hay fever and things like that, you can actually, with the leaves and the flowers of solidago, make a tea, and it helps relieve all of that. So a nice little medicinal plant, but it's also a great pollinator. It is one of the most important pollinator plants for our native bees, just because when it's blooming in fall, it's providing all the nutrients that it needs for those bees to survive over the winter because they're getting ready to go and hibernate and be ready for the next season. So it's really good. There's several different species.
Right.
So if you get the Solidago altissima, then that's one. If you don't have the
That
space,
can get kind of tall, right?
yeah, that's 6 to 7 feet
Yeah,
tall,
yeah.
but also it spreads very heavily by rhizomes. So it's one of those things that know which species that you have and which ones behave.
Right.
If you want that one, because it is so great, just put it in a pot
Yeah.
and make sure it can't escape the drain hole, because it will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's a good source, and all of them are great. And some can do some part shade. So the gray goldenrod, for
Great, yeah,
example,
yeah.
it can do some part shade as well if you don't have
that's a
necessarily
little
full
bit
sun.
smaller,
Yes,
correct,
it only
yeah.
gets about 2.5 to 3 foot tall max. But typically around here, it's about 2 foot tall.
Another tall one, though, frostweed, which
Yes.
is another overlooked.
Yes, that is another overlooked one, and it is one for, in San Antonio anyway, it is the main nectar source. It's very nectar dense. So the monarchs, when they're migrating, it's an important source. You will be a stopover and a roosting stop just for that plant alone, but it's
Right.
also a host plant for the border patch.
Right.
So it's multiple uses. It'll be used in spring and it'll be used in fall very profusely.
Right, and it's one that is great for shade, right?
Yes, it's a very-
A lot of people
yes.
say, I don't have any light. What
Yeah,
can I do?
exactly, and there's so many things that will flower and bloom in the shade,
Right.
and they just don't know. But that's why we're here. We're going to
Yes.
let everybody know exactly what they can use for their spaces.
Okay, and then what about some grasses? Because we've talked about a lot of wildflowers per se, but grasses are sort of overlooked because people don't really think that there's that connection with pollinators as well. But things like blue grama or Sidotes grama, those are great
Yes,
for pollinators.
and those are actually two of my most favorite grasses because one, they're easily to put into a regular space in your front yard or in your back. Some can do full baking sun and some can do a little partial shade. The blue grama can do a little bit of part shade as well and doesn't get too big. But they're important because when we think about butterflies and host plants, we don't think about grass.
Right.
But there are several grasses that are needed And blue grama and cytosgrama are definitely one of them for our grass skippers to survive.
Well, Drake, I want to thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate all this information. I hope everybody can come to the Nectar Bar
Yes.
and get filled up on all the wonderful plants that you have. And y'all are open from when again?
We are open Thursday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then on Sundays on noon to 7.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.